Yo, what's happening, everyone? I am your host, Ryan Allen, and welcome to the All In, All Out podcast. And man, I'm excited. It's the first episode, so much to talk about, so much to detail, and I want to thank all of you for taking the time out to listen to this first episode. It's something I wanted to do for a relatively long time. I first had the idea starting a podcast over a year and a half ago while I was still in college, but we'll get to all of that. But first, what I want to talk about is why I'm starting out this podcast. But before we even get to that, all of you need to, or at least I feel that all of you need to know me better before I can get into detail why I even started a podcast in the first place. Okay? I'm calling this episode The Genesis. And for those who are listening, Genesis is the first book in the Bible. It's another word for foundation, essentially. So without further ado, let me properly introduce myself. My name is Ryan Allen. I was born on September 25th, 1998 in Stamford, Connecticut. I've grown up in Connecticut all my life. Stanford for 2 years, Norwalk for 17 years. That's where I consider my hometown. And I've been living in Fairfield ever since. I have 3 older sisters. I am the baby boy. I was raised by my mother primarily, and no disrespect to my dad, but I'm calling it what it is. My mom raised me primarily. And in terms of education, I graduated from Norwalk High School. There I went to Sacred Heart University with a aspiration to get a sports management bachelor's degree along with a minor degree in accounting. However, I only spent 1 year at Sacred Heart University due to financial situations, which led me to transferring to Southern Connecticut State University in New Haven, Connecticut, where I eventually graduated in May of 2020 with a bachelor's degree in business administration. And I was going to get a minor in criminal justice. That was the intent. However, since I transferred schools, it essentially kept me back a semester, leading me to take a couple courses in the summer and the winter sessions as well. And for me to get that minor degree, I would need to take prerequisites in order to complete the classes I needed for the minor. And for those who don't know what prerequisites are, they are essentially the prelude to the main classes. Those classes are the foundation to those main classes. And once I discovered that it was essentially going to take me another semester, possibly 2, to get the minor, I said to myself, you know what? I'm not dealing with another year of school potentially. My goal was to graduate a bachelor's degree. That was the goal. That was the mission. That was the objective. So much so that I didn't take a vacation the entire time I was in school. Not one. When my family went back home to Nevis, those who don't know where Nevis is, it's in the West Indies, right near St. Martin. I know most people know that. I didn't go. I did not go. I said, until the job is done, I will not take a vacation. Even when I was going to work part-time. And during that time, I did valet. I was a valet attendant. I did security. And then I worked at Petco for 2 years and a month, I believe. Didn't take a vacation the entire time, except when I graduated from college, which was a week. I took that vacation. I don't even consider that a vacation. I consider that a break. My original intent was to go back to Nevis for a vacation after I graduated college, but the pandemic happened and all of those plans went out the pasture, essentially. So that's my background in academics. In terms of hobbies, I enjoy basketball. That's my favorite sport. I don't play consistently anymore as I used to. And I started playing basketball when I was 7 years old. And I stopped playing full time, I would say 18 years old, because I realized that part of my life is not necessarily over, but it's in the past. It's in the past. Now, I do plan on making a comeback full time one day when the time is right. And I know some people out there will say, well, when will the time be right? And my answer to that question is when I'm ready. Because the last time I played on a organizational team, it was for Connecticut Elite. That was my junior year in high school. The last time I played for an organizational team. And I didn't go out the way I wanted to go. And I say that because I believe that the last tournament I played in, it wasn't supposed to be my last, because there were communication conflicts between the coach and the parents, and my mom said, nope, we're not doing this. And I said, okay, Ma, okay. So other than basketball, other hobbies that I enjoy doing is watching movies. I'm a big movie person. If you ask me, hey, have you seen this movie, with actors such as Denzel Washington, Tom Hanks, Michael B. Jordan's another one, Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, Ice Cube, or any other actor who are under those genres, I have watched. I'm big into movies. Another hobby of mine is going to the gym. I'm big into fitness and health. I usually go to the gym 3 to 4 times a week. One day would be for legs, a combination of quads, hamstrings, glutes. Another day would be for, say, core and shoulders. Another day would be for arms, triceps and biceps. And then another day would be for chest and back. I've been big into fitness since 2017. Specifically May 7th, 2017. That's when I started my fitness journey, because I realized after I started not playing basketball anymore full time, my fitness and my health was deteriorating. I mean, I remember I was 160 pounds, pure fat. Now on the outside, you couldn't tell. But when I took off my shirt, whew, that was a different story. So ever since May 7, 2021, I've been full on health and fitness. Now, I haven't been consistent. I will admit, I haven't been consistent in a not long time, but in a good while. That stems from finances, because at the end of the day, you do need money to get the resources to supplement your body. Stresses at my last employer, who I will not name right now. And the commitment to being on a diet plan, and a fitness plan. When I started my journey 4 years ago, my desire was to lose, I would say, 20 pounds, or at the very least get down to 5% body fat. And I did that. I got down to 5% body fat. The lowest I ever weighed was 139.5 pounds. And once I got that goal, I said, okay, what's next? And ever since then, I've been building muscle and building mass to a certain extent. So that's me regarding health and fitness. And as I mentioned earlier, in terms of work experience, I worked as a valet attendant. That was my first official part-time job. Then I became a concierge in technicality. And then once I became a concierge, I became a security officer. Now, I was still doing the same job duties as a concierge, but since I worked at an apartment complex, the complex I worked at had a new contractor come in, which meant that I would switch employers. So in terms of job titles, I was technically a concierge and a security officer. After security officer, I got a job at Petco, and there I worked, as I mentioned, 2 years in a month. And my last job, I will not say the name now because it was not a fun experience. I'll put it politically correct. But I worked at a wireless company. So that's my background and summarization. Obviously, you will get to know me more better as these episodes go along. But before we get into our next segment, the last thing I do need to mention is if there's 3 things that, you know how you do job interviews and the interviewer, they ask, if there's 3 good things about you, what would you say they are? And my 3 things, just to sum up myself, I'm consistent. I am consistent in terms of treating everyone the same. You're not going to be surprised when I say a certain thing or do a certain thing. Consistent to the bone. Yeah, I don't switch up. Some people say to others, I don't know how you're going to react, how you're going to feel. Well, you ain't going to have that saying about me, because you know how I am. You know what I'm going to do. You know what I'm going to say. Because it's important to be consistent. I'm not going to get into detail why it's important, but consistency is number 1. Number 2, I would say, is I'm transparent. I'm big on people being truthful, no matter what the situation is, no matter what individual comes my way. It's paramount to be transparent with people, because what I learned early on in my life when I first got saved is being truthful will not only save you in a lot of conflict and trouble, but it will prevent trouble. I can't tell you how many times where I see people lie and BS their way in certain situations, and it always comes back to bite them in the backside. I always see it. Always. No matter what situation it is. No matter what time frame or what certain aspects of life the person is going through. Whenever they lie, it always comes back to bite them. And I don't like it. Plain and simple. Look, transparency would be number 2. And number 3 is I enjoy helping people. It's a passion of mine. It's my purpose in life. And in our next segment, that's going to be part of the reason why I started this podcast. So hold on tight. Don't go anywhere. We're going to take a break here on the All In All Out podcast. Yo, welcome back. This is segment 2 of the All In All Out podcast. Again, I want to thank all of you for listening to the first episode, the Genesis, as I referred to in segment 1. And in this segment, as I mentioned towards the end, I want to talk about why I started a podcast. Why now? Why didn't I start the podcast a year and a half ago? Why did I decide the time is now to do it? Why did I even start the podcast at all? Because there's so many podcast shows out there. It's an overflow. Especially last year during the pandemic, where people started a roulette of podcasts. Well, I'm going to answer that question today. As I mentioned earlier, I wanted to start to do a podcast over a year and a half ago. It stems from a question that I asked God, I would say my sophomore year in college. And I asked God, what do you want me to do in this lifetime? What purpose do you have for me? Because my intent, I would say my junior year in high school, was to run a business. That was my goal. That was what I thought my purpose was in terms of how can I put this? In terms of the end goal of just running a business, turning it into a conglomerate, so my family would have generational wealth. But I realized around my sophomore year in college that was not the end-all be-all. There's got to be something greater than just running a business, than being an entrepreneur. There's something more. And that's when God told me to help people. And I said, okay, I understand. I got it. And I got it because, one, revelation, and two, I've always had a desire, since I got saved, to help people. I get such a joy out of being able to assist others same way people assisted me in my journey in life. And especially being a young man in Christ, a lot of my generation, literally a lot, they're lost. And I don't say that in a disrespectful way. It's only we live in a world that's bamboozled, that's full of ignorance, that's full of wickedness. And not to brag or anything, but I happen to be in the minority where I don't fall in line with that wickedness. I don't do any of that nonsense because, one, I know better, but two, I was taught the right way. Not to say other people weren't taught the right way, but I know without any doubt I was taught the right way and the correct way. So going back to why I started the podcast, when I was a senior in college and I happened to only take one semester as a senior, again, it goes back to I transferred schools, all my credits didn't transfer, a lot of hoopla. And I actually did a radio show on campus. It was called All the Above, and I had a radio partner. His name was Noah Ramos. You know, we hit it off when we first met each other, and we had a show. And I just want to say I'm truly grateful for the opportunity, because for those who don't know, that usually when you're first starting out in the radio business and you don't have any experience, at least when I was at Southern, newcomers are required to shadow a show for a semester to get a feel of how the radio business works, how doing radio works in the first place. I didn't need to go through that process. It was a situation where, in my opinion, Noah believed in me. He trusted me that I wouldn't screw it up. And we did a radio show. So, shout out to Noah Ramos. Even though him and we aren't on speaking terms, I want to thank you. I am thanking you for the opportunity, and it helped me a lot. And it prepared me for what I'm doing now. So that's the foundation in terms of doing radio, broadcasting, podcasting, or anything related to that. But the main reason why I'm starting this podcast, why I'm doing it now, because we are in a time where it is crucial for the correct information to be exported out in the world. We're in a time where being gay is okay. And look, I'm not homophobic. I'm just telling you my opinion. We live in a time where this country is forcing this COVID-19 vaccination down people's throat. And because of ignorance, people who don't want to take the vaccine, they feel forced to take it out of fear. We live in a time, which pretty much been all throughout history, where people put money ahead of their character, ahead of their morals, and ahead of their integrity, which damages your character, by the way. But most importantly, I find it a responsibility as a Christian, as someone who does live consistent, to share the knowledge that has been given to me to others, whether it's my generation, past generations, and especially future generations. That's why I'm doing this podcast, to help people. Not in a way where you're a drug addict and you need help, not that way, but to give people some enlightenment, to give people a different perspective on certain situations, whether it's politics, culture, society, Christianity, relationships, whatever it may be. I find it a responsibility of mine to give people the truth. Because as I mentioned, I don't lie. Now, I don't claim to know it all. I don't claim to be a doctor. I don't claim to be a specialist in any of those fields that I mentioned. But what I will claim is because by the grace of God and through serving God since the age of 14 years old, I have a revelation of the truth. Because there's only one truth. The truth to give to others. Give them the tools to a better and wholesome life. Now, as I mentioned to others in the past before, I can give you the tools. Excuse me, there's a train. I live right near the train station. I can give you the tools. But if you decide not to use them, they become useless. And furthermore, I would never recommend or advise someone to do a certain thing if, one, I didn't do it myself, and two, if it wasn't going to be beneficial to your life. I tell you, there have been so many times where I give someone a word of encouragement, a piece of advice, and they, at least from my eyes see, they don't follow it. And it ends up biting them in the backside. I'm not telling you this stuff just to ramble off in the mouth. I'm telling you this stuff so your life could be easier. Because this piece of information helped me. Simple as that. I got a passion for this. I have a desire to help people, and this is the best way, or at least one of the best ways I can do that. I'm doing it now because when is the time going to be right? You know, in the past, I've stalled. I've truly stalled. I was worrying about trademarks and time. Nonsense. I was making excuses. The time is now. The time to help people is now. And that's why I started the All In All Out podcast. Next, we're going to conclude with what to expect on the show. You know, goals, what I'll talk about, what we will talk about, and other things of that nature. So don't go nowhere. Don't turn off your phone or whatever you're doing, because I'll be right back. We'll be right back here on the All In All Out podcast. Yo, we are back here on the All In All Out podcast, hosted by yours truly. It's the last segment of the day, and I want to talk about the expectations of this show. What should all of you expect? Why should you listen to this podcast? Why should you take the time out to listen to what I have to say? What purpose does this podcast have? Why should it be applicable to your life? Why? Well, I'm not going to push it on you. I'm not going to psychologically force it upon you. But my purpose and the vision for this show is to present informative, life-changing knowledge and understanding, not only for current generations, past generations, and future generations. As I mentioned in the last two segments, I have a desire to help people. And because of what I have experienced, I am strongly confident in what I know, and what I know will be beneficial to your life. And you've heard the date I was born in the first segment. So some of you may be thinking, why am I going to listen to a 23-year-old about life advice? What does he know about life advice? What has he been through? I get it. I get it. I understand it. What I will say for those who don't know me, all I ask is for an opportunity. An opportunity to be a positive influence in your life. Because I already have revelation. I understand the gifts of the Spirit and what the fruits of our labor can and will produce, depending on what we do. I understand it. Now, not to say that I won't continue to learn. Absolutely, I will continue to learn. But as a 23-year-old, people have perceived me as I am wise beyond my years. I'm throwing up quotations right now as I speak. And not in a bragging way, but I understand why they say that. Because I would make statements such as, look, it's an inevitability how this relationship is going to go down. You see how this person is treating you. No respect. No love shown in a relationship. Don't ignore the signs. Don't ignore the actions that this person is doing right now. What 23-year-old is going to say that nowadays? No, the 23-year-olds that I've been around, or at least my peers, they're talking, especially guys, they're talking about having sex with multiple women, not at a time, but just being a jump off in a sense. They have lack of morals. So the point is, I've lived enough life and I've experienced enough life, especially as a 23-year-old, where I know I am a positive influence on anyone. And as I said, all I ask is for an opportunity to help you, to give you the tools that were given to me. And those same tools being a great influence in my life and why I'm not doing the things that's of this world. Another reason would be you're going to get the truth from me. I said, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I'm not going to BS you on anything. And I'm going to tell you how it is. Now, I will be respectful as possible when saying certain things, but you're still going to get the truth from me. And nothing's off the table. Nothing at all. Because I believe that if we don't tell the truth, we're being a disservice to other people. Because at the end of the day, you heard the old statement, oh, the truth will set you free. Yes, that is the, no pun intended, but that is the truth. Without any doubt. Without any doubt. Other than that, I'm going longer than I plan on going today in terms of a time frame for podcasts. I'll do my best to make the time frame at most a half an hour, because I understand we live in an era where the attention span is not good, and I'm guilty of that as well. But if I go over, just know I'm going over with a purpose. Because once I flow, I'm not going to stop just because of a time constraint. As I mentioned as well, we'll talk about it all. And I mentioned in the trailer as well, from sports, the politics, society, culture, the news, and Christianity. That's what we'll discuss. Nothing, as I mentioned, is off the table. And the last thing I do want to mention as well is why I named the show All In, All Out. I can't believe I didn't bring that up. Good thing I did. Thank you, Holy Ghost. I'm a big believer in being 100% in or 100% out. I don't believe in that shades of gray crap that people want to push on to others. You know, I remember in my history class, we were asked a question 3 times, same question 3 times in the semester. And that question was, do you believe that there are 2 sides to every story? And every person, and there were 3 options. Yes, there are 2 sides to every story. 2, are there more than 2 sides to every story? And 3, is there only 1 side to every story? At the end of the semester, literally everybody chose the first option. Yes, there are 2 sides to every story. Except one person. I chose option 3, which reads, there's only 1 side to every story. Because there is only ever going to be 1 side of a story. And that's the story. When you when you hear, for example, Donald Trump got elected president in 2016, that's the story. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. That's the story. The Milwaukee Bucks won the 2021 NBA title. That's the story. That's it. What people have a misconception on is the difference between sides of a story and someone's perspective on a story. Because we all have different perspectives. Real quick, we all have different perspectives of a story. Right? Because we're not obviously in the same position, so to speak. We all can have different perspectives on a story. Again, going back to the Bucks win the championship. My perspective could be, hey, they just won the NBA title in 2021. Another person could have the perspective of they gentlemen swept the Phoenix Suns in the finals leading to a championship because they were down 2 games and then they won 4 straight. Another person could have the perspective of, hey, the Bucks only won that championship because KD's foot, Kevin Durant, foot was on the line. We all got different perspectives. But there's only ever one side to a story. And that's part of the reason why I named the show All In, All Out. Because in life, and whatever decision you make, you either got to be all in or all out. There's no in between. And I'm not going to go in full detail of examples on why it is important to do that. But what I will say is, you don't want to be that lukewarm individual. Because I believe in the Bible it reads that it's better to be hot and cold than it is to be lukewarm. Like, choose a side. Choose a side. Don't be that person in the middle. And that's the message I want to export out to all of you as we're getting ready to close. Is to either be all in what you're doing or be all out of what you're doing. And every decision that we make is paramount. Every decision that we make is vital. Because one bad decision will alter your life forever. It might be in a minor way, or it could be in a major way. But it will influence you in some way, shape, or form. Well, I want to thank all of you for listening to the genesis of the All In All Out podcast. I am truly grateful for any of you who have taken the time out to listen today. And I'm just excited. I'm happy. It's the first time I've been truly happy in a long while. Obviously, when you're in Christ, you're always happy. But when you live in this world, man, there'll be days where I was sad. 100%. So on that note, don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast. It's currently on Spotify. You can follow the podcast profile on Instagram. The username is All In All Out Podcast. There you will get updates on when shows will be released. Possible snippets or clips of the episodes will be on there. Or you can follow me at Salute to Rye on Twitter and Instagram. That's Salute to Rye, SALUTE, the number 2, and then Rye. That's RY. The show will be on Apple Podcasts soon. I'm just taking the time out to get that all sorted out. But again, it is on Spotify. Listening to it there. Again, like, subscribe, give it a 5-star, that whole shebang. And with that being said, stay blessed and stay well balanced. Thank you.